Hi, friends, and welcome to Mortisect. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Bambi Everson. She is an actor, teaching artist, and the author of over 30 plays. Her full length, The Thin Man in the Cherry Orchard, had a sold out run at the 2019 New York Fringe Festival, along with 6 other volumes. Murder is Served won second place in the 2019 one-act competition at the Little Theater of Alexandria, Virginia. Neither Here Nor There had a sold-out run at Manhattan Repertory Theater in 2017. In 2015, she was the recipient of the Yip Harburg Foundation Scholarship, and her work has been produced at the Juilliard School, Emerging Artist Theater, and at the Hudson Guild. She's been influenced as much by cinema as she has by theater, an inescapable accident of birth, as she's the daughter of noted film historian William K. Everson. Bambi teaches drama and playwriting in Manhattan art schools and is a member of SAG-AFTRA, Actors Equity Association, and the Dramatists Guild. And also, she is a film actress that can be seen in Poverty Row Picture Productions. So, Bambi, welcome to Mortisect.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
We were just speaking before the interview that you're coming off of the film Finding Miss Mobster, which is produced by Poverty Row Pictures and our mutual friend Richard Douglas Jensen. So you were there in Alabama a couple of days. You want to talk a little bit about that experience?
Sure. It was just, I said it was the most fun I ever had with my clothes on or off. He's just a sweetheart of a man. I looked completely ridiculous. He dirtied me up and put me in a crazy wig and stuck me out in the dark where there were mosquitoes, and I had to hold up some dead rabbits sometimes, and I couldn't have had more fun. It just I will never ever say no to a Richard Douglas Jensen production, and there's more coming where I get to be even sillier and crazier. So I look forward to them. They treat you so well, and it's just a very happy set. It's a very happy place to be. I had a blast in the other one too, in the vampire movie. I was only there for a couple days for that one.
I loved your role in that one. That one is so much fun to watch.
That one, The Kiss of a Vampire, where you played the witch.
That was not some delusion. And now, she's dead.
I did, and they did something like amazing thing. It didn't come out in the final cut, but they had like cut my gave me a fake neck and put some raw chicken dipped in blood in my neck.
Oh my God.
So that when the vampire bit me, he got to pull out this. It didn't quite make it in the final cut, but he spit the chicken out. And I loved dying, apparently, because in everything that I've done on film, I've died. So that might be my little niche thing.
It's a good thing to put in your special skills on your resume.
Die well.
You've also done a lot of theater. Do you find a difference between acting in plays and acting in film?
Well, of course, because, when you're doing theater, it only happens that way, that one time with that particular audience. And film, if you mess up, you can go back and do it again. You can try different things. And in theater, if you want to try a different thing, you have to try it with that audience. And I find that some nights I'll get a laugh at a certain line, and then the other nights it's crickets, and you scratch your head trying to figure out, what did I do wrong or what did I do right? But I love live theater, and so I've been really lucky that I belong to enough small groups that I get to work a lot, usually with Emerging Artist Theater. They're very, very, very kind to me over there.
Talking a little bit more about theater, because we're both interested in theater. We love theater. We love film, obviously, especially horror. But I noticed in reading like the list of some of your plays, you do have one that deals with like Frankenstein, I believe. So you could see that there is an influence of horror. Do you enjoy having that horror element as a playwright? Because I would say that's more of a niche. I don't really see as many specifically going towards the macabre as much as I noticed some of your work has. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I just can't help it. I've written very few plays where somebody doesn't die in them, or if there's a ghost or a. Most of my plays have death or ghosts or something that is kind of an homage to my dad and my childhood, because that's what I grew up with. I grew up watching horror films and appreciating them, and not necessarily being scared by them. So, this play that I wrote called Sincerely Held Beliefs is kind of an homage to a movie called The Innocents from 1960, because you don't know if one of the characters really is out of her mind or whether she really is channeling this dead child. And then that's the kind of ambivalence I like to put into my plays. And I also, the Thin Man, I did the Thin Man in the Cherry Orchard. That was my college thesis. And then I did a sequel to that, The Thin Man, Nick and Nora Go Off Broadway. And both of them are, because Nick and Nora are just my favorite people. I've seen all the Thin Men movies by the time I was 10. So it was my homage to them, but they have to die horrible deaths. Not Nick and Nora, but there has to be a death. There's always a death.
And I was reading about your studies as a playwright, and I saw that you studied with, okay, I'm probably going to say her name wrong, but Martina Majak.
She came in as a guest playwright.
Oh, okay.
When I was at Empire State University, and I guess because I was one of the older people there, and she was talking about a play of hers called Ironbound, which had a woman that was escaping an abusive relationship or staying in an abusive relationship. And the kids couldn't understand how a woman would stay in an abusive relationship. They're kids. They just don't get it. And I understood. And so we kind of bonded. And then I found out that she lived about 4 blocks away from me. So not only do I get to see all of her plays because they're brilliant, but we used to be able to go through to walks in the park together and talk theater.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
That was before she won the Pulitzer. We haven't had much time since.
I can only imagine. So, we were talking in the beginning, we mentioned about your dad, William K. Everson, and how just a well-known and respected film historian, archivist. Now, growing up with your dad, how would you describe that? I mean, growing up with a gentleman who has that level of film knowledge, how was that?
It was wonderful and bizarre. I grew up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in a sprawling Upper West Side apartment, but every inch of it was filled with 16 millimeter film, floor to ceiling. We had these like tiny little passageways that we could walk through. One of the bathrooms was completely filled with film. Everywhere there was film, and that was his life. So for me, I was taught very, very early to respect film. So I have this kind of maybe healthy or maybe unhealthy detachment when I watch film, because my dad, you couldn't talk during film ever. You couldn't rattle candy wrappers. You couldn't eat. You couldn't close your eyes or your ears. So, because you had to appreciate every film, and then you had to discuss it afterwards. So I was doing that since the time I could speak. Apparently I saw Dracula when I was 2, and appreciated it, apparently. But I would have these like reoccurring nightmares, these glowing eyes like coming at me in the dark. And I didn't understand what that was until I rewatched Dracula at like 6 or 7. I was like, oh, that's where it came from. That's why I'm a little triggered by the music from Swan Lake. Oh, it all like comes back to me. But Dad was very specific about how you had to sit and watch a film. Lillian Gish is my unofficial godmother, and so she used to come to the house all the time to watch films because there was no other way to see them, because there was no video tape yet. So I would sit next to her on the couch. This is watching silent movies, and I was very young. And I would say, "Oh, Miss Lillian, what are the bad guys going to do to you?" And she would just go. And so I had to learn how to read so that I could read the subtitles. So I was a very, very early reader, simply so that I could know what happened to poor Lillian Gish next to me on the couch.
And as we speak, we're in Mamaroneck, New York at LMC Media, and Lillian Gish lived in Mamaroneck.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, yeah, I remember, because I believe there's a mural outside. I'll have to ask, but I think there's a mural of people who came from this area or who lived here at one time. So, yes, I just got the thumbs up from the technical director, Dina. So she did live here, and I know that I think they used to film occasionally some silent films here. So,
Wow.
if you ever find your way up here, we'll definitely show you around.
Oh, I'd love to see the statue. She also had an apartment on 57th Street where we would go for dinner often, and she had a trunk at the foot of her bed with some of her costumes in them that she was allowed to keep. And my dad and Lillian would be talking in one room, and I'd be going in the other room and rummaging through her stuff. And I would come out, as like a princess in something. And I would say, "Look at me." And my dad would have an absolute fit. "Take that off. That's from Romola. Take it off." And Lillian would just be like, "Oh, Bill, let the child play." Like, she was just so easygoing and so kind. And I adored her. I adored her.
Did she ever share any advice or wisdom regarding acting?
No, because my dad did not want me in the theater. I don't know why. He loved actors. They were at our house all the time. But I was to be a good little girl. And when I was old enough to know that's what I wanted to do, I served coffee and cookies and kept my mouth shut, which is a huge regret, and which is why I say I had a late in life renaissance as both an actor and a playwright, because Dad didn't really want his daughter to do that. And I was a good girl, so I did some weird things on the side behind his back in my youth, my wayward youth.
It must be surreal because you're mentioning as a child, you're watching all these films, and then your dad had these relationships with actors. They would come over. Was there anybody, do you remember the first time that you were really starstruck, besides Lillian Gish? Because I know that she held a special place in your heart. Was there one actor or actress that you saw in a movie, and then when your dad maybe brought them over or you met them, that you were just completely enamored?
You. I was madly in love with Buster Crabbe. Just absolutely in love with him. And I got to meet him in Sun Valley, Idaho. I mean, I have pictures of myself standing at his, star on Hollywood Boulevard. I just loved him. And then I met him in Sun Valley, and I'm stupid. I was like 15 years old, and he was in his 60s, and I challenged him to a race across the swimming pool, and he gave me half a length of this not very big swimming pool head start, and he still beat me. And I would have run away with him in a heartbeat. Also, Sterling Hayden, I would have run away with him in a heartbeat. I was completely enamored with him. And I have a story about him, but that's only if you have time.
I think we'll have some time. Why don't you tell us about the story?
So I had seen Asphalt Jungle and The Killing and Johnny Guitar, which I love Johnny Guitar. How could you not love a movie where the final gunfight is between two women? I mean, I just love Johnny Guitar. So I was a big Sterling Hayden fan, and apparently he was to be honored at Telluride Film Festival in the late 70s. And I didn't know what he looked like now. I only knew what he looked like then. Anyway, we got to Telluride, and there was this big brouhaha because Sterling Hayden disappeared. And they all figured, oh, he's such a rebel. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this Hollywood bull crap. And he probably just took off and decided it wasn't for him. So my father was scrambling. We have to find another character actor. We have to do this. So he went into the office to go figure out what they were going to do. And he pointed me in the direction of our little cabin. So I'm walking up the path to our cabin, and this man in robes looking like Moses comes down from the mountain with a big walking stick and layers of clothes. And I smiled at him, and I said, "Oh, did you go up to the waterfall?" And he goes, "No, let's go, Contessa." And I just went. Like, I know you're not supposed to go off into the woods with strangers, but there was just something about him, and I just went. We went up to this waterfall and sat there for like 15 minutes or something. He talked like a Hemingway novel. I was completely enamored. And then I came down from the mountain to see my father standing at the foot of the mountain with this look on his face, like there's his daughter coming down the hill with Sterling Hayden. So for the rest of the time that he was there, he would be in his cabin with the door wide open, usually in a bathtub. And anytime I walked past, he'd go, "Contessa, come on in." So I'd come and I would sit by his bathtub and just listen to him tell stories. And the only sad thing was that I had bought a paperback copy of his book, Voyager, for him to sign for me because I was so enamored. And at one point he turned to my dad and said, before he saw me, he says, "Oh, isn't it sad to see your books in paperback, Bill?" And so I put it away, and so he never signed my book. He signed my dad's, so now I have that one. But I would have run away with him in a moment. He was amazing.
Did growing up around so many personalities and incredible people inspire you as a writer? Like, do they ever make it into your works, even so, like without meaning to?
It's hard to tell because that was my childhood, and they were just people that came over a lot. I'm sure Edward Gorey, who is the illustrator and book writer, he had this sense of the macabre, and I really, really liked him as well. So I think maybe I was influenced a little bit by his sense of the macabre. And then there's like a character, like Lawrence Tierney used to come over all the time. He was just like the ultimate tough guy.
Yeah.
So I think every time I write a hitman or a nasty cop in one of my plays, in my head, it's Lawrence Tierney.
He was on the Seinfeld episode where he played Elaine's dad.
He's the comedian. We had a funny guy with us in Korea. Tail gunner. They blew his brains out all over the Pacific.
And he just had this, he was, and I think he was only on Seinfeld once, but I've seen him in stuff in even Reservoir Dogs. He was getting all the crime syndicate together. And I always wondered, was he really, because was he putting that on, or was that really him when you saw him in person?
He was kind of a tough guy. When he came over to the house to watch films with my dad, of course, I had to be the good girl and make, coffee and cookies. And all I remember him saying was, "The coffee's kind of lousy, but she's kind of cute."
That sounds like something he would say, just knowing him from film. I could imagine that. Now, your dad was such a champion of film, and you do mention about horror, and I mean, we're a horror channel, so we're always interested in horror films, and he even championed like the subgenres too, like horror, sci-fi. Would you say that your dad enjoyed horror equally as he would, let's say, a great drama?
Oh, absolutely. And he took great pleasure in, in making connections in real life and horror. One of the movies I adored was Curse of the Demon. The British title is Night of the Demon with Dana Andrews, where there's a parchment that is passed. That means you're doomed.
He did give you the parchment.
And every single time we were on a train in England, going to my grandfather's house, we would pass by the Clapham Junction station. And every single time, my dad would pass me a comic book or pass me something or hand me my coat, and there would always be a parchment in it. He took great, great pleasure in that. Anytime we were on a train, and there was fog, he would write Froy on the window because that's from The Lady Vanishes. So, he loved it, and his best friends, Dick Gordon and Alex Gordon, they worked with Ed Wood on Bride of the Monster.
Oh wow!
So I didn't get to see Bride of the Monster because, of course, that's before my time. I did get to go on the set of The Raven and meet Peter Lorre, apparently, but I don't remember it. But it's in his book that I came to the set and asked Peter Lorre, there's some rotting corpse or something that walked past me. And I asked Peter Lorre, is that a good monster or a bad monster? And apparently Peter Lorre said, oh, that's a very bad monster. There are no good monsters at AIP Pictures. Apparently that made it into the book. I wish I remembered. And I wish my dad took pictures, but he didn't.
Imagine if you had like cell phones and smartphones now, all the pictures and videos you would have had. I mean, it's
know.
surreal, especially like, I mean, Peter Lorre and the Raven, Vincent Price too, right? Wasn't it Vincent Price? And I think of like Vincent Price, I think of Basil Rathbone, I think of Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. So that's right in my wheelhouse. I love that.
Yeah,
So
I got to meet a lot of people. Unfortunately, I don't have pictures and I don't remember a lot. I just remember once that I was on the moors with my dad and this man named Bob Monkhouse, who is a talk show host. And we were walking on the moors and Christopher Lee happened to be there. And I was like, oh my gosh, imagine seeing you here on the moors. Isn't that cool? And he was like, oh, why do people always associate me with these horror pictures? And he walked away, which I'm sure was a joke. I'm sure it was a joke. But I was like, oh no, what did I do? But yeah, I was always surrounded and a little bit starstruck. But I had to pretend I wasn't because I didn't want to embarrass my dad.
Sure.
Do you have any favorite horror films yourself? We would love to know.
Give us a list that our listeners can maybe check out some of the films.
I actually did a podcast with my partner on Dead of Night from 1945. And it's kind of like a precursor to all those Twilight Zone movies. It was 5 different directors, 5 different stories. And it is the best ventriloquist dummy story I've ever seen. Oh, I'm a little out of focus. Let me see what I can do with this. It's Michael Redgrave as the ventriloquist with his dummy Hugo that goes off the rails. And it was the first movie I saw it, I guess when I was 8 years old. And it was the first movie that ever scared the bejesus out of me. And there weren't monsters per se, but it was ghost stories. There's a sequence with Googie Withers looking into a mirror and seeing a different, still gives me chills. That's the chills of an 8-year-old. She looks into a mirror and she sees a different house, different apartment with all these things in it. And she starts to notice that her husband is changing and she doesn't understand why. And then she figures it out. And there's a young Sally Ann Howells in one of the episodes. Anyway, it's 5 separate stories. 1945, Dead of Night is my all-time favorite horror movie. And also, as I mentioned before, Curse of the Demon, which is called Night of the Demon. There's extra footage in the British version. And that's 1957 with Dana Andrews. And I love that because there is a monster, because they couldn't make a horror movie without a monster. And they did, and they said, no, you have to have a monster. It's a horror movie, even though we know who the monster is, and the monster is the Aleister Crowley type person. But in the last minute, they made this monster, this demon, and it is so cool. He just comes on and he's smoking. He's only in it for like 2 minutes, but it's such a cool monster. It's my favorite monster.
Well, I'll have to check out those movies. Have you seen them?
No, I can't say that I have. I mean, I've seen The Raven. I've seen some of the, even Roger Corman, like Edgar Allan Poe type films. But I will check that one out, and we'll have to have you back, and we'll discuss that film together.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, I love that. And The Innocents, too, from 1960 with Deborah Carr. It's it's a gothic ghost story, but it just gives me chills.
I love gothic ghost stories. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, one of our other co-hosts who's not here, he loves haunted house films, so that would be like right up Adam's alley too.
That one and The Haunting, yeah, absolutely. I highly recommend them.
All right. Well, Bambi highly recommended it, everyone, so you got to check it out. And we will put the list in descriptions down below so that you can check out those films. Now, Bambi, did your dad have a favorite horror film?
Gee, I don't know. I know his favorite film in all the world was the 1917 version of Peter Pan with Betty Bronson. It was the there's only two movies in the world that I ever saw my father have an emotional reaction to, and it was that one, and it was I Know Where I'm Going, which is a Michael Powell film about war-torn England. He was very, very stoic and very, very British. I might say King Kong was his favorite horror film because I saw that. I mean, I must have seen the original King Kong 100 times.
Wow.
And when I was young, I always burst into tears at the end because, King Kong died and it was so unfair. And I was so upset by it that my dad took me to Ray Harryhausen's house where he actually had the model of King Kong that they used in the movie because my father had to prove to me that King Kong wasn't real. And he said that I spent the first half an hour just apologizing to it like I did with the dead rabbits in Richard's movie.
That would have been great to have like a video clip or that or something. That
I know.
That is so amazing. But that's so amazing because imagine how many other kids were probably scared or thinking the same things, but you were afforded that opportunity to actually be there. That's such a cool story.
Okay, I have a silly question, but I have to know. I've been thinking about this the whole time. What happened to all the 35 millimeter film? Is it like wallpapering your apartment right now?
I wish. No, it was all 16. It wasn't 35.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of it was nitrate. And when my father passed away, everything went to Eastman House in Rochester. So it's all there, and it's a library, and apparently people can go and see it. There was about 6,000 films, 2,000-foot reels, and then there was about 2,000 shorts altogether. And it all went. I ferreted out like a couple little things. I have a program of George Arliss, and I have a couple of little trinkets that I have managed to ferret out of the apartment. But it all went. NYU has all the paper, all of my dad's notes. There's a William K. Everson library at NYU.
Wow.
It has all his program notes and stuff. But no, I collect DVDs. That's my thing. And books. I'm really, really terrible with books. So what my dad's obsession for film became my obsession for film, but in a much more contained place because square footage.
Did any of the neighbors know that you had all this celluloid in your apartment? And I mean, that's actually pretty dangerous. If there was like a little spark or a fire, man, that would be
right. It was a fire trap.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of nitrate film. There was some, and that was kept separate. But there was, regular film. Yeah. Nobody could smoke in the house. One match and would blow the whole place to atoms, as Kylan Clive says. A full theater setup in the living room and a projection booth. But they made us take the projection booth down because they said it was a fire trap. But actually, the entire house was. The only thing that made us disassemble was the projection booth.
So, Bambi, I was going to ask because, I mean, obviously, you grew up in film. Your dad's this famous film historian. What was it about theater that really got you going?
I did go to the High School of Performing Arts for theater. And what made me want to do theater and made me want to go to the High School of Performing Arts was I got to see Jimmy Stewart at the Prince of Wales Theater in 1972 do Harvey. And just watching him on stage, I saw that puka. It's not really a rabbit. Harvey is a puka. And the way that he like fixed his ears and fixed his tie and the way he had Harvey take a bow on stage. I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And I got the chance to tell him that quietly because my father didn't like me gushing when I got to meet him at the Telluride Film Festival. But my dad loved theater, so he did take me to theater. He took me to good theater and he took me to bad theater. I got to see the musical version of Gone with the Wind with the Burning of Atlanta Ballet with my dad. And I got to see Jesse Matthews in The Water Babies on Broadway in England. So when we were in England together, which was every summer and every winter, that's what we did. We saw films at the British Film Institute and we saw theater at the West End. And yeah, we were really able to bond with theater. He still didn't want me to be an actress. He didn't really like that. But I did go to the High School of Performing Arts. And then I went to Webber Douglas Academy for a year because I thought I was going to do repertory Shakespeare. And then I came back to New York, and for a little while I was doing basement theater. I did gay theater for the deaf with Robert Patrick, a lovely man, and did a whole bunch of his strange plays on the Lower East Side. And then I married an actor. So somebody had to make money. So I became a teacher, and I was a teacher for 25 plus years. And my dad was much more approving of me as a teacher and a mom, and much happier with that.
What did you teach?
I taught kindergarten, pre-K, and then I taught special ed for 13 years.
Oh.
But every student that I have knows that Frankenstein was the doctor and not the monster.
Yes, Frankenstein's monster.
That is
yes.
one thing that every student of mine for the last 25 years says, I remember you told me that. And I'm like, good, my job is done.
Oh, that's funny because I was putting something together, a camera. We did a short film recently, and I had the cage for the camera, and I'm putting all these different devices on. And I said I should call this Frankenstein, but then I remembered, no, wait, that's Frankenstein's monster. So I scrapped the name, but I remember reading that book in high school, and I loved it. So it's, I don't know, have you ever read Frankenstein?
No, I'll have to read it.
Yeah, it's a great book, but I can appreciate that your students know that differentiation. So that tells me you're already a really good teacher.
Well, also, I really did like the Del Toro Frankenstein. I don't know if you saw the new one.
I haven't seen it
no, I
yet.
haven't seen
Was
it.
there something
Yeah.
about the performance? Did you like, I think it's Jacob Elordi or Elordi, I think.
Jason Isaacs.
Yes.
No, Isaac. God, two
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
Isaac Oscar.
Yes.
He's playing Frankenstein, and you can see that he's, unlike Colin Clive, he is tortured by his father and has so many issues. But you can tell that he's really the bad guy, and the monster's not the bad guy. And also, de Toro, he did so many homages to all the other Frankenstein movies. So he put the Hermit in, and he put in pieces from Bride, and so I really appreciated his dedication to the whole genre of it. And it is beautiful. It's beautiful eye candy, but nothing really compares to when you go see Bride of Frankenstein on Halloween in a theater on a 70-foot screen with a bunch of like-minded people. And you can see that Una O'Connor gets like a standing ovation and all that. To me, that it's almost harder to see it now that they've restored some of it, where every brick and everything is so clear, because I'm used to seeing things in my dad's living room, and it's kind of murky, and it added something to it, rather than seeing everything so crisp and sharp. But The Old Dark House is the other movie that I had to mention that I forgot to mention. That might have been my dad's favorite horror movie. It has Karloff in a role of a deaf mute. Terrifying. And it's the original haunted house movie. There's a light over there, and we're stuck in the rain, and we're going into this house. I knew every line from that movie, and I repeated it endlessly to anyone that would listen.
It could be it could be a one-person show, and you could just
Yeah.
do that and recite the whole
Do it.
film, making a black box theater. I think that would work.
Yeah,
Why not?
one-woman show. Adam would definitely be in the front row.
Yeah, I love that idea. Something that just throw it up there,
Well, my partner's thinking of making Devil Go from Mars from the 1950s, a British horror movie, into a musical. That's his thing. I do think that horror is making a comeback. I mean, I really, really enjoyed, of course, Little Shop of Horrors being made into a musical, but they made Toxic Avenger into a musical. It was wonderful. It was campy and wonderful and fun to watch. And I want to see more of that. They did Silence of the Lambs, Silence as a musical, but I didn't get to see that.
Oh, I would love to see that. That's really cool.
Yeah, no,
didn't
I
know
like
They
that.
did one.
Yeah.
They did one on The Exorcist, but it didn't quite work. They had too many stories going on simultaneously. But the idea was cool, and they did the vomiting with like a leaf blower and green glitter.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was pretty cool. But, oh, that
It kind
was
of
pretty cool.
loses. It kind of loses a little in translation because the movie is so horrifying, but to see it on stage with glitter,
I kind of love that, though. I think
it's
theater is
surreal. I
like
love it. Yeah.
campy has its place in theater. It just makes sense, you know?
Absolutely, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun and enjoyable, and
Yeah.
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, the Exorcist one, I had some issues with, but Toxic Avenger, I really, really enjoyed.
Can you tell us a little bit? So we heard that you have an upcoming role with Poverty Row Pictures in Demon Wolf. Is there anything you can share with us about the upcoming movie?
I don't know if I'm allowed to,
Okay.
but apparently I am a Shakespearean witch. I think he wants to give me more camera time because now we're best friends. So
Yes, he talked glowingly about you. I mean, even when after the interview, he's like, "Oh, you have to get Bambi on the show," and I was like, "You already sold me." I mean, I saw your performance; you were great.
Yeah, you were great.
So it's funny though. I might have to talk to Richard about this. He's putting you in witch role, so you're going from a witch from The Kiss of a Vampire now Demon Wolf. But I love it because those are the scenes and those are the characters that can really. You could chew the scenery. You could really explore and enjoy it. And those are the memorable characters in films.
let's hope. I mean, I don't know about Crazy Cora. She's pretty out there. The first film I made was a Nigerian horror film called Here Love Lies, and it was a self tape, which is what you do now during since COVID. And I dolled myself up for this thing. It was like, oh, it's the housekeeper. Okay, I'll be like a housekeeper like Judith Anderson, and I'll be Mrs. Danvers. And so I got, I thought it looked good, and I did this self-tape, and I got the role, and I was so excited. And then I saw the description of the character, and she's like a bedraggled 7-year-old snarling, limping woman. And I was like, oh, that's what they got from me trying to look good. Okay, so I guess this is my niche, playing some oddball, offbeat characters. When I was in school, I was one of the oldest people there at Empire State, so I got to play everybody's alcoholic grandma. So
there's a place for that too,
There's
as
a-
in all
there's a
characters.
place for it.
But I'm looking at the time, and I could keep talking to you forever, Bambi. But I'd like to, before we go, is there anything that you would like to plug? Is there any plays coming up? Are there any roles or anything that's coming out on streaming or online that we should be watching out for?
I'm not doing anything at the moment. I do have a YouTube channel that has sort of like a fictionalized ghost story about my dad. I think it's up there. It's free. You can download it. It's called The Exorcism of Violet Ward. It's a ghost story. No, I just say yes when somebody wants me to work. I love to work. I want to keep working as long as I can. And Jodorowsky, who's the director, always says, you always say yes. Yes, I will do this film, or yes, I will not do this film. So I am saying yes as much as possible.
Well, that's a great attitude to have as an actor. And also you have a website, BambiEverson.com. I can certainly put the link in description. So I would like to thank our guest today, actress and playwright Bambi Everson. Watch this episode. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any comments for myself, Tatiana, or Bambi, please put them down below. And thank you for coming down the rabbit hole with us, friends.